Hi, my name is Martin and I am attempting to show you an installation of an external waste kit or a printer potty to an Epson Workforce WF7010. Now, let's be honest here, Epson have made this as difficult as possible. They have created a tank which, quite frankly, you could replace very easily, but the parts are not widely available. This will fit into this segment here and go to that depth. So you have, well, not a huge amount of pad material, frankly, in there. They could have done it a lot deeper, but hey. The trick with this is the amount of tube you have available to play with is not a huge amount. You can see just there approximately a centimetre and a half's worth of loose or slack that you can make use of, which makes it incredibly difficult to fit an external tank. Right, I'm going to back out so you can actually see what it is I'm doing, hopefully. Right, now this particular installation requires some specialist kit. In this instance we're talking about these, some calipers. Now the reason for these is they allow you to lock and unlock on the tube. So if I can just get this in to the right point, excuse me while my hand goes in and obscures the view. Basically I need just enough. You want to be very careful, and I do mean very careful when doing this. You do not want to be pulling out too much of the tubing. Now you can see just there that I've got approximately a centimetre of tubing out and isolated, and more importantly anchored. Now then, this is the fun bit. What you want to be doing is getting this piece here into that hole. This is not easy. The depth of this, my whole hand can disappear into there right up to my wrist. So you are, let me just show you that again so you get a better idea. This will go in right up to my wrist, just up to there. That's basically where it goes to. And I'm not exactly small-handed, so it's fun. Somebody with small hands, a child, a lady of petite stature, etc., not your average bulky great rugby player, is going to have a lot easier time with this than well, most. So key to this is getting this part here, as I said, into that hole. Now first thing to do is wet it, either with a bit of water, a bit of spit, whatever you want to use, and then your idea is just to get it slotted in. Now you can't see any of this, and I'm probably going to end up cutting it out because it's a pig. But the idea is to get your hand in and slot it so gently into the end. Now this is why this is not for everybody. It's a pain. The calipers make this just about bearable. Right, now then, hopefully you'll be able to see, especially if I push that down a little bit, you'll be able to see I've just about got that in the end. I'm just going to take this off the tripod for a second so that you can actually see what's going on and zoom out. Right, now then, if you have a look down there, there's just enough going in. It's not quite over the barb, but now this is how it gets interesting. I'll just pop you back on to the tripod. What you will find is if I now take the calipers off, because we've done the really tricky part, we can use the hole in the case itself down there. Right, if I zoom in, you'll see underneath where the tube comes out, there is like a collar or a ring. Now, ironically, this actually works to our benefit, because once you've actually put that barb into the tube, it expands the tube part out further. I'll just use this to demonstrate. expands the tube width or diameter out further so that it won't actually go through that hole. So effectively what it does is provides us with a brace, and which we can use to push the tube further onto the barb, which is what I'm going to do now. So effectively what you do, you get your barb part into the tube like that, reasonable distance in, and then you actually force this part here down against the plastic. Now I'm going to do that. You're not going to actually see this, but you'll be able to see the results in a second. So ever so gently, and I do mean this, gently, you want to basically slowly thread the tube back in so that our tubing part goes deeper into the tube. Now then, what will happen is this part here will get slightly stuck. So you have to be very careful in terms of removing it. Just wiggle. Oh, I'll just move this out again. To remove it, what you do is you just get in there with your fingers and you just wiggle gently round and round. You don't want to be going yank, you don't want to be pulling or anything like that. Gentle, patient, absolutely essential. Right, now I've done that. I'm going to use the calipers again to just show you what's going on. It's not a great light, I'm afraid, I'm sorry about that. But you will find that that. There we go. Right. If we now zoom in, you'll see that the tubing part is now forced onto or into the tube. And it's gone all the way. Now I've done this a few times in the process of figuring all of this out. So obviously I'm working with a tube which has been fairly well sort of worn and stretched, so it's a lot easier for me. The critical bit, quite frankly, is going to be getting your calipers attached so that you have approximately half a centimetre to 3/4 of a centimetre. It's about, what, half an inch for the rest of you guys in America. So you have approximately half a centimetre showing and proud so that you can stick your cartridge, so you can stick your tube part in. That's a critical bit. Getting it in just enough so that you can then actually force the part into the tube is the next bit. Right, now then, moving on to the easy parts, frankly. What you'll notice is this particular tubing connection has an elbow in it, or an L-shaped connector. The reason for this is that when you actually go to put this into the hole that you drilled earlier, which is in just the photo instructions, that allows you to do, coming off the tripod again, that allows you to do this. You route your tube round to the side and out there. Now there's a reason for this, which I will now show you now that you're back on the tripod. Right, you've got your elbow through there. You take your second part of your extension tube. Now note the tubing part colours and things will probably change so that I can make it easier to determine the difference in kits, but you will end up with a kit that does this. Now if you've done it right, you will have a tube connector down here running all the way around to the side, coming around this part here and then coming out. Now why is this important? Well, it's entirely possible that your connector on the inside there may, and I stress may, pop off, especially if you haven't managed to actually force it onto the connector properly. So good idea to have belt and braces here. Now what we're going to do is we're effectively going to take our existing waste pads here and replace them. Now the idea behind this is really to give ourselves a backup. So using something like a biro lid, make sure you've got the screw hole here. Now I've put the screw back in, purely and simply because I don't lose it if I ever need to find it again. But what you're going to do is put your biro lid, something roughly the same size, just pop it into the pads like that. Okay, now the reason we've got this is basically it's going to be a buffer. It'll go down into there and it will act as a spacer, so it will stop this crushing the tube. What we do is we then slide this back into the bit, and now you can see here I can't push it any further because of that lid that's in there. Now it's entirely up to you what you do next. You can put in something like a little wooden block, or a bit of polystyrene, or I don't know, a bottle, empty bottle, something along those lines, to actually hold that in place. You could even glue it if you really wanted to, but that will basically be loose. When you actually put the cover, which is this bit here, back on, once you turn your printer back over, it will obviously fall back down towards this. So something in here to maybe hold it to that depth may be a good idea. It's entirely up to you. Obviously you're not going to be able to screw it back into place because A, it's not in the same position as it was before, and B, your screw hole has this coming out of it. This is purely as a backup. If you're confident, you can leave it out, it doesn't matter. I'd put maybe some pad in here or something just to act as a soak up, just in case anything leaks, but it's pretty solid as long as you've done it properly. Once that's done, put your bottom plate back on and screw it on. Now if you want to be sure that if there's any problems you find out pretty damn quickly, what you could do is when you turn it over is leave that off and put a square of blotting paper in this area here underneath, and any ink that hits the blotting paper will immediately soak across to the other areas, and if you're smart you'll spot it and then come and deal with it. I think the critical thing to note with these particular printers is that Epson have made this as difficult as possible so that external waste tanks aren't easy to fit. The good news is that replacing those tanks, or replacing the material in those tanks, is a lot easier. For somebody who is looking to replace the pads after a year and a half, it's going to be easier for you to go and buy replacement pads. Anybody that tells you this is going to cost you more than 15-20 quid is taking the mickey, frankly. So talk to Epson service centres until you get somebody, or find somewhere like Octo Inkjet that will actually sell you them. Okay, don't spend stupid money. It's ridiculous. So that's it. This obviously is installed as per all other Octo Inkjet waste kits. That's pretty much it. I'm not going to go through that again. If you would like to have one of these fitted by Octo Inkjet, i.e. you're in the UK, you've got a brand new printer and want to get it done, there will be a service to actually have this. And this particular guide will apply to other printers as well, almost certainly. So that's it. How to make life very difficult. As I said, you are going to need some pretty specialist equipment to get in there. This took 2 days to figure out. Okay, thanks a lot.